bear with us a minute. The other meeting just finished, so we're scrambling to get things started. Hope everybody's staying cool.
Yes.
Let's see. Hang on just a second. Mr. Chair, we are now ready. Thank you for your patience.
You bet. Thank you, Porter. Welcome, everyone, to the August meeting of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission. Appreciate you all participating tonight. I should say, maybe AKA Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, AKA the Mural Review Commission, because I think are we at 4 months in a row?
I think
yeah. Fantastic. How exciting. So anyway, I digress there, but it's exciting that we have so much energy in this area, and I'm excited to get to look at another application as we have the last few months. So that's great. We'll turn it back to Porter for the housekeeping details with respect to our Zoom versions of our meeting. So I'll let him fill us in on those details.
Thank you. This is Porter Arneal. And just want to remind everybody to mute yourself when you're not speaking, please, to avoid distractions and barking dogs and all that good stuff. And to remind everybody that we are recording this meeting and broadcasting on YouTube and channel 25. I think that's all I need to tell you. Back to you, Jerry.
Okay, great. So I've got 7:35. We'll call the meeting to order officially. And we'll do a roll call of the commissioners, and I will, let's see, I actually have an agenda, so I'll do it in the order that they are on the agenda rather than how you all are on my screen. So Christina Walker.
Here.
Joshua Fallleaf.
Here.
Marlo Angel.
Marlo won't be able to attend tonight.
Okay. Denise Stone.
Here.
Denise. Mary Dubton.
Mary is also not going to attend tonight.
All right. And James Alexander. Don't see James tonight. Sarah Curry.
Here.
Hello, Sarah. Jordan Martinez.
Here.
Note taker extraordinaire, Dina Amont.
Here.
Thank you, Dina. Daniel Smith.
Here.
Great. And I am Jerry Johnson, the chair, and I'm here. So welcome you all again to the August LCAC meeting. Thank you for being here. We are gathered here again to review another mural proposal. I'm again excited about that. This one, our first order of new business is to review the mural proposal for Cottin's Hardware for the back wall there. And we have, I think I saw we had David Lowenstein. Porter, is that okay if we jump right into that and have Dave talk a little bit about that project?
Absolutely. It's the showcase item for the evening.
Yeah, it's great. So I welcome Dave to the group. I am excited to see this proposal. I got to work with Dave on an ad hoc committee where we reviewed how the city handles murals and so forth. And Dave was instrumental in giving that artist perspective and his vast experience in doing murals and public art. And it was great to have him on that team. So it's nice to see him proposing, being part of this proposal, and welcome your comments, Dave. Thanks for showing up tonight.
Well, thanks everybody. It is a thrill to be back with you all. I mean, some new faces, but the same group. And, you know, back when we put the new mural review criteria together, that was really important because I hope that has had some influence on what we're seeing in town. You know, we're seeing a little bit of a blossoming of murals and really all sorts of different kinds. So I'm very excited about that. Tonight I'm here with Linda Cottin and Artis Ramberg. I don't think Missy McCoy could join us, or I don't see her yet. But that's our team for this project. I'm the lead artist. It's a project that's been in the works for a number of years. And thanks to Linda and Tom, we're finally moving forward on it. I hope that folks have had a chance to look over our proposal because I really can't say a lot more than what's in that. It's for the back east facing wall and then an adjoining wall that faces south. So it's total about 70 feet by about 16 or 17 feet. It's a cinder block wall. It's in great condition. There you go. There's an image of actually the design. Yeah, so this is a project, as I mentioned in the proposal, that has to do with our environment. I think broadly, folks can interpret this mural as they wish to. I don't want to, go too far and try to explain it all, but what we're seeing is a section of the earth coming down from the top of the wall. North America is in the middle, which you'll be able to make out quite well when we have it painted up there. It's, there's some clouds and other things going on. And then it's set into a night sky and sort of perilously balanced upon the outlines of some native plants, plants that we're familiar with. There'll be echinacea and milkweed, and then some others that just have significance because of their fragility and longevity. And this is Andreas. He's one of the muralists too, and he wanted to come in and talk with you all. Do you have Cookie Monster with you? And Elmo too? Okay, that's good. That's good. So Andreas is one of our muralists. So those drawings or paintings at the bottom that the earth sits on transform into constellations as they move out to the left and right. And some of those constellations will be referring to ones we know. A few of them are just stand-ins at the moment, but others will be based on images that relate to the theme of the mural. So that's the big image you're looking at. And, talking with Linda and Artis and Missy, we're well aware that a portion of the mural at the bottom will be covered over. It's really a sort of a seasonal issue with the materials that Cottin's has in back. And I took a photo of that. There you go. There's a good photo of that so you can see. Although Linda and I have talked about opening that space up at special times, especially during the dedication, so folks can get a good look at it. And then also giving folks an opportunity, and this is not really the intent of the mural, but giving folks an opportunity to take pictures of themselves with the earth. One of our reference points for this mural is the myth of Atlas, and we're sort of turning that on its, there you go, Jerry. We're sort of turning that on its head, because clearly there isn't one individual who could hold up the planet. At the adjoining wall that faces south is going to be a giant hourglass. You know what an hourglass is? It counts down time, and that really is there to help articulate our message, which is that time is running out to a certain extent on many species that are here on the planet, ecosystems, and so on. And those will be represented within that hourglass. We have a few things sketched in, but it'll be fully rendered out when it gets painted, so that species that are extinct will be at the bottom. And some of those will be ones that humans had a role in extinguishing. And then as you move up to the top of the hourglass, there'll be ones that are threatened and endangered, including us, including the humans, the Homo sapiens. So we hope that folks will be able to contemplate the hourglass as they think about, you know, the earth in balance in the larger image. And the two are sort of, they're sort of communicating with each other. They're not part of the same image, but they are part of the same idea. And we set that hourglass back, and it'll be a sort of trompe-l'oeil architectural piece, so it feels like it's actually part of that architecture back there. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun to paint. The only other thing that I want to really add right now is that I'm thrilled to be able to be working with artists Ramberg and Missy McCoy. I'm sure you know their fabulous mural that's on the south-facing wall closer to Massachusetts Street. And it was our idea all along, and they were really gracious to agree to participate. We've had a bunch of discussions about the design, feel really good about it, and they're going to be assistants on the project. We'll also invite passersby to come and paint, as I do with all my murals, at the lower levels. So we're not going to put people way up on scaffolding. And as I said in the proposal, we want to get up there around September 1st and be done by the end of October, which is more than enough time, but we're just accounting for weather and all of that. We reached out to Barker neighborhood. They're inactive at the moment, but we did get a couple letters from neighbors, and then we've got the current acting president of Barker to submit a letter this week supporting the project. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's all I have to say, and be happy to answer any questions.
That's great. Thanks, Dave. Anybody have any questions for Dave? I was after this, I was going to give a moment for Linda to also comment, but you can pause for a second if anybody has any questions directly for Dave.
I do have one question for Dave. I just want to say that this looks like a beautiful project and a beautiful mural. I did notice that there is a disabled sign for a disabled parking spot. And I was wondering, because your mural paints over it, where is it going to be? Where is that disabled?
Great question. You know, it'll go right back where it is in the original photo. So it'll be on top of the mural. You know, we have to work around it. Absolutely.
Wonderful, thanks.
Any other questions for Dave before we let Linda say a few words? All right, Linda.
There we go. Hey, I'm getting the hang of this stuff. Hi, thank you guys all for giving us time to present this project. When Tom and I bought the store back in '92, we saw these two walls that were obviously meant for a mural. We were lucky enough to stumble across the first mural that Missy, our artist, had drawn. And And we have ever since then, the last 20 years, been searching for the right thing for the back wall. We're aware that that back wall gets looked at by 4 houses directly all day long. So we were very, very concerned with making sure it was something that our neighbors behind us would appreciate and enjoy. So we have talked to actually 3 out of 4 of the neighbors over there, the 3 that directly look at the mural out of their front window, and they are all very much in agreement with the design and excited to have something besides a blank wall to look out their window at. We hope that this mural will be an addition to Lawrence and make people think and feel about things that are going on with the climate without being too overt and pushy about it. So I welcome any questions or comments, and I hope that you guys are all in agreement that Dave has put together an amazing mural, and with the input of Missy and artists and a few other key people, I think the design is really going to speak a lot, not only of the image itself, but also of our Kansas area with some of the plants and the constellations. And I think it will be something we can all be really proud of.
Great, thanks, Linda. I really appreciate that. Anybody have any questions for Linda? Appreciate you all engaging with your neighbors and so forth. That's a big it's a big thing for us, you know, is support for this type of thing from the folks that you know, that are directly confronted with those faces, walls and so forth. So appreciate you guys reaching out to your neighbors and so forth. Denise, I see your hand.
Yes, I live in a neighborhood and I had no idea that this mural was coming down. I mean, that would be put on the wall. And I love the mural that's on the south side. I love it a lot. I don't see the connection between what's proposed for the east wall. You know, quite frankly, I wish I had known, because I would have articulated my perspective on this perspective mural. And I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't know about it. I'm not on the platform for the neighborhood, although I am at Cottin's very, very often. I didn't see any information in the Cottin's, like near the cash registers, about this. So those are my comments.
Yeah, I can address that because we've done this before with other mural. Like I said, we've been working on this and we just kind of ran into it. We came up with the idea maybe less than 2 months ago, and we've been working on it. And then we really decided that we wanted to push this forward fast, only because the time would, you know, September painting and October painting. We realized if we needed to do this, we'd have to get it before you guys today. And so because of that, the only outreach we did immediately to the neighborhood was, once we got an image that was close to what we wanted, which just happened within the last few weeks, we did do a next door neighborhood post to the Barker neighborhood online, which I know had a limited outreach. And then, like I said, I directly went and talked to the neighbors directly behind us. We didn't want to put anything up in the store yet because we wanted to get the commission's approval before we went through the effort of showing it to the neighborhood and letting them put input in on it. It's the design is not concrete. It is flexible, and so we can accept input from the neighbors and respectfully consider their concerns and desires with it. But that's why you haven't seen anything, because we didn't feel like it was in the position at this point to put it out there and say, this is what we're doing. Unlike when we did Artists, that was what we were doing. This one still has a little flexibility. Like Dave said, the plants and the colors and the constellations are all somewhat flexible at this point.
Okay.
Dave, maybe Denise, I like your inquiry into the how it corresponds to the east, or sorry, to the south side, and I think Dave had indicated that some of those folks were involved. So maybe we could get Dave to elaborate a little bit on that cooperation and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm not the best person. Artist Ramberg is here, who was one of the artists from a mural on the south side of the building. I think they're great complements to each other. They both have to do with the environment, in a very specific way. Obviously, there are different lead artists behind the two murals. The intention was not to continue Artist and Missy's mural. It was to create a complement on the theme of the environment that spoke to this moment. This is a moment that's now 20 years or so later. And so that's what we crafted. And, to Denise's point, one of the really important things for me, and I know for Linda too, was to make sure that Artist and Missy were involved. And, we've been working together now, I guess a month or so, and had some really great conversations and developed aspects of the design together and feel great about it. So that's what I could say.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Artist, maybe you have a few words to share with us about that.
I'm not great at this, obviously. I was delighted to be invited to share in this project. I was surprised when the first one happened, and I was thrilled. And working with Cottin's hardware and the people there was such a pleasure, not to mention that Missy McCoy is so fun and lively and so talented. So the first thing I saw that David did was a mural at Quentin's eons ago, and they have built over it. It's no longer there, but my respect for who he is in this community, what he has done to bring awareness to many issues, artistic collaboration, inclusiveness with young people often. He's responsible, I feel, for the large red stone going home, so to speak. And Tom talked to Missy and I about this project and got us very excited about the possibility of painting on that east wall. And he's very concerned that people think about what's going on with our world at this time. And so when Linda told me that Dave was going to welcome our help or invited us to join with him, it just seemed like a beautiful opportunity for continued community engagement and cooperation and sharing of beautiful ideas. And I'm very proud of Tom and Linda for the kind of hardware store that they've given our community. When I go there, I see so many people I know who know that when they go in there, someone is going to say, "Can I help you?" instead of having you flail around and wonder where in the world is what I want. And so to me, this is just a beautiful experience. And things I said to Dave about what about this or what about that and the design, he was very open to listening and hearing what I had to say, and I appreciate it. And I am really proud to be part of this burg. And that's about it.
Thank you. really appreciate your comments and your perspective. If any other commissioners have any questions, I looked through the package, and knowing that Dave was part of our checklist and so on and so forth, I sort of went through and in my mind the boxes had been checked and everything. But I would like to hear from any of the other commissioners if we have in the past, particularly in the past 4 months, we have asked groups who have presented their mural packages to get additional community support evidence for us, or check some of those boxes. And so I wanted to give each of the commissioners a chance to comment on how they felt that this proposal meets with respect to our checklist and so forth. So any questions or comments from anyone? Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, I looked at it pretty carefully and compared it to the application that the Lawrence Arts Commission has. And there were a number of items that I think needed amplification, such as a detailed description, the technical feasibility, the inclusion of engagement, neighborhood engagement. I'd like to see it documented, what has been done, simply for the sake of the application, and the relationship of the art to the site. And that when you look at the LCAC checklist, you'll notice that you need that what is required is a statement that looks at the history and cultural and social dynamics of the neighborhood. I think that's really, really important. What is stated is very minimal and skeletal. I'd like to see that explained. I think those are my comments.
Thanks, Denise. Anyone else?
This is Joshua,
Yeah.
and I need minimal, support. I'm not concerned with a thorough understanding of the neighborhood, of what it's all about and what's going on, and an integral understanding. I'm supportive of putting murals on blank walls everywhere. And if Cottin's is good with it, the neighborhood association is good with it, and the artists have a great idea like this, or even a bad idea, I think paint on blank walls is terrific. And this is well conceived, well thought out, and I'm positive will be well executed. So I'm supportive. I love it.
Thank you, Joshua. Anyone else? Sarah?
I just want to say that I agree with Joshua. For one of our other murals that we did go and send back to get more information from the community, you guys have already done that. You have provided us a letter of endorsement from the neighborhood association. We have the owners here with us endorsing the use of the building. We have the artists, and we have more than proof that that this can be properly executed within the time frame. And I have to say that I'm in full support, and it looks like it will be a beautiful addition.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else like to comment?
I'd just like to say that, Dave, I love the design and the idea and sentiment behind it. And I like that I think, Linda, I don't think I can remember your exact words, but I like what you said, Linda, about wanting to allow the art to make people think and feel. And I feel that elicit that in people. And I feel like the idea behind it goes really nicely with the artist, your mural, the original, I guess I'll call it mural. So I think the idea behind it they go well together from a conceptual standpoint. So I do support it.
Thank you. And anyone else? Okay, well, I'll go. I love the idea. I think you all have done your due diligence on this. The business owners are here. The artist is here. The artist has clearly a significant resume in this area. The contract between the artist and the business is complete. The copyright issues are dealt with. The longevity, what happens to the mural over time is covered in that agreement. There seems, in my mind, to be neighborhood support, and you all have done outreach not only to the neighborhood but also to the muralists from the adjoining, if you will, if maybe that's not the right word, but mural. And so I'm 100% in favor of the project, and I think you guys have done the necessary work for this commission to recommend approval. So I thank you for coming prepared.
Jerry?
Go ahead, Josh.
Joshua. I just want to say that, like, the way I was unfamiliar with the East Side mural that on Cottin's, I mean, of the process and how it came about. But I think when Linda described that and being very conscientious of the neighbors right behind and talking to them and consulting with them, you're going to have to look at this every day if you look out of your house to the west. I mean, if businesses and artists and all of those things went in the way that this project has, then we wouldn't need the pro forma checklist that ought to be the easiest bar to clear ever, to put art on a wall in coordination with the neighborhood and an artist or community of artists as well as a business. That's why this is in place, is because not everybody does it this well. And so for that reason, I think, everyone should be able to follow this model so that maybe one of these days we won't have to have this pro forma process of approving something that everybody's already in tune with and in support of. So I just say good job. And
great. Thank you, Joshua. I'll give before we call for a motion, give anybody else an opportunity to speak who would like to.
Can I say one more thing?
Please, Linda.
I just to clarify, if we do get the approval tonight, we will create an enlarged rendering and put it on a tripod in the hardware store and invite any customers in the store to give us input. And if there's any concerns or ideas that are, that we should share with Dave, we will, and Missy and artists, we will do that so that we do get community input even more. Like we said, we haven't really gotten a lot at this point, but we do intend to get that before we start painting and to really listen to what the neighborhood has to say about it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hi, Jordan Martinez speaking. I had a quick question for Porter. So I actually have a potential conflict of interest with Dave. I work at his son's daycare. I sent you an email about this, but I never received an answer. Should I abstain from voting here?
Oh, I apologize. I thought I responded to you. I don't think that's a conflict. You're not working with Dave as an artist. I don't believe Dave's paying you as an artist. So,
All right.
you know, we have a relatively small town. I appreciate your conscientiousness, but unless other commissioners have a concern, I do not see that as a direct conflict.
Okay. Just wanted to be completely above board there. Thank
Yeah,
you.
good. I mean, I'm concerned because frankly, Linda's been bribing my dog with dog treats for years, but I don't have a vote, so it won't matter.
That's great. All right. Yes, Denise.
Yeah, I have a final I'm in support of a mural, and I'd like to see some changes. So of course I will articulate my opinions. The only thing about the issue that I have with going forward is that from this perspective, in previous application reviews, we've asked applicants to go back and flesh out some of these checklist items, and we're not in this case. And I don't see that as a fair way to treat an application. So that said, I'm in support of the mural, but I'd like to see that amended in some way. That's how I would vote this evening.
Denise, I appreciate that. And so Porter, can we put the checklist up on the screen? Let's go through it. Let's spend the time. Let's make sure that we're checking the boxes.
While he finds that, I'll just say I agree with Denise. If something's not checked, it needs to be checked. You know, some boxes is not checked, and you know, it has to be fair and equitable. And I certainly support that. I was under the impression from my cursory readings of those emails that and minimal knowledge of that checklist that they had fulfilled those things. But we should double check for sure.
This checklist has it is an embattled checklist, and I'm happy to go through it to make sure that we're meeting our standards that we put together. So box number 1, detailed description of the location, proposed work, sufficient to show visibility of the site, physical dimensions, property boundaries. I feel like we have that box checked. Anybody feel to the contrary? All right, none heard. Technical feasibility of the project, degree of permanence of the structure, surface components, wall materials, finishes, grading, drainage, landscaping, lighting, all of that sort of thing. Anybody have any concerns about that box? All right, none heard. Third box, concepts and realization of the work of art shown by representational sketches and or renderings of the proposed mural, or description of design methods to be employed, as in the case collaboratively developed community mural projects. Any discussion on that point? All right, none heard. Artist or artist's resume, bio, CV, images, previous work showing evidence of ability to complete the work as proposed. Any issues with that one? All right, hearing none. Neighborhood engagement as evidenced by documentation that the artist has presented the project to the neighborhood association or like body and gained approval for the project. Okay. Relationship of the proposed work of art to the site in terms of historical and cultural and social dynamics of the neighborhood and local architectural character and surrounding context of the site existing or planned. Denise?
Yes, I think that needs to be fleshed out. I haven't heard any comments that state how this is going to relate to the neighborhood, the history, the neighborhood as a whole. And we have asked previous applicants to address this specifically.
I actually second that point, especially since I'm noticing a bit of a trend in previous mural applications and projects that we've been, debriefing in these meetings, that cultural and historical context, for me, in the broader scope of Lawrence, rather than neighborhood to neighborhood, but I think we are seeing a little bit of lax standards in that particular area. And especially since in the presentation, that seemed to be at least partially covered, talking about how you want this mural to evoke, thought about what our place is in the world and the environment, and, to really think about that. I would like to see some of that in that area of the application, because I'm looking at it right now, and all that's written so far is the new mural will fit in well with the immediate area's historical and cultural context, but you don't actually explain what that context is. And in previous applications, we've asked applicants to do that. So I second Denise's point on that. I want to see that fleshed out more.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. So what that looks like to you all is a written description. That would work for Jordan. Denise, that works for you as well. So a written description of the relationship of the proposed work of art to the site in terms of history and culture and social dynamics to the neighborhood.
And I would just like to clarify, I'd be fine with the application taking the broader scope of in context of Lawrence, historical and cultural context. I don't think it necessarily needs to be as zoomed in as neighborhood to neighborhood.
Denise, how do you feel about that? Do you think it should be more neighborhood centric or community wide?
Actually, both would be great, because I think it does relate to the community as a whole and the neighborhood.
Okay. I have to say, I'm just going to give my opinion on this, is that I think we're nitpicking a little bit here. I think that the topic of this mural fits with a lot of the historical and cultural basis of our city and so forth. But I think that this is not a big ask on the part of the muralist and the sponsor, and so I think we could ask them to provide some text and context around that for us. Any other comments before Joshua? Go ahead.
Yeah, my only comment is if this is not addressed, then a paragraph or two would suffice for me, not for evaluations, but to check the box. If it has no relationship or correlation, that's fine. It's not of concern to me. But how it impacts that relationship, a description of that is fine by me. If we ask that of others, we should ask that of this application as well, and then check that box and move forward to approve.
Fair enough.
Well, and I'd just like to piggyback off of that real quick. I can't remember who said it earlier, but this is an excellent application. The application materials have been done to a really high standard of excellence. I think that when this particular box gets checked, I'm excited to see them set a new standard. I don't think it should be just checking a box. I think you should give it the thought and consideration that you've already given it, just in writing. Thank you.
Can I also add something? This is Dina Amat. I feel like that historical, architectural, and cultural connection is there. And I guess I think it just needs to be documented and articulated. And I noticed myself maybe kind of filling in some of the blanks myself in looking over and going on the credibility and experience of the people involved here. So I was kind of maybe filling in the blanks a little bit myself, but I do think, in fairness, just articulating and getting that down in writing is important. And someone else said, I agree, a paragraph would be sufficient.
Fair enough. Thank you, Dina. I agree. Anyone else? All right. Detailed installation plan with timeline. I think, in fairness, I think I probably have extended grace on this one to the impeccable experience of the artist. I have no concern with this whatsoever, but maybe if less experienced muralists were presenting this, we might ask for a more specific timeline and so forth. So I think it would be fair, possibly, for us to say, hey, could we get a little bit more detail on the timeline? Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, you're going to have to be more specific, because we have a design. We're going to get a little more input on it. Our plan is to start painting September 1st and be done by October 31st. If there's more installation information you need, you'd have to tell me what that would be.
Yeah.
We talked about the preparation of the wall. I'm not sure what else you want.
All right. Anyone else have thoughts on that box?
I feel like that was covered pretty well in the presentation. I would just like to see it in writing. A lot of your presentation covered our checklist. I just want those items in writing.
Well, I guess that's what I'm mentioning, is the things that I just said are in the proposal. So if there are additional items on the installation plan, please let me know, because I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for. We talked about preparation of the wall, the timeline, the materials, the condition of the wall, our finish date. Is there something else that you're thinking of?
Dave?
Go ahead, Dina.
I think what Dina just said is really important, because your words during the presentation fleshed out some of these items. So I think if you just go back and reflect on what you just presented would be really, really helpful. If for no other reasons, we have an application on file that will help in providing the history. And I think historical perspective is always important when you submit things to the Cultural Arts Commission.
But I think what Dave's asking, and I'm kind of asking too, is what more than we're going to apply paint on the wall during this time period does that item in the checklist need? We moved past the historical and cultural and community thing. Now we're just talking about how will it be installed and during what time period is how I read that item on the checklist, and he has that as we see in the shared screen now. That's in there, right?
Yeah, so let's look at it. Where's the where it says start September 1st, finish October?
I think it just says a completion date, which is, that's sufficient for me. Especially because they're going to continue to gain, I mean, if we want to itemize that out, you know, public input during this time period, paint applied to wall during this time period, whatever it is. I mean, if we need to detail that out, but I honestly, whatever process that is, the completion date's nice to know, and I'm cool with that.
I would like it.
So Dave, maybe just a more detailed out.
Yeah,
Sort of.
you know, hey folks, I appreciate the comments. If you want a more detailed installation plan, I would ask that you would write in an email to our team what you're looking for, because I am a little bit confused. I mean, we can't, I guess I'm still asking, what are you looking for? We know our start date, we know our end date, we know who we're working with, we know how we're preparing the wall, we know the condition of the wall. We can't determine the night that will project the image on the wall because of weather. So that's not something we could include in an installation timeline. And it's also impossible to talk about the number of days it'll take to do each portion of this project, because that also is dependent on many factors. But if there is something you need, I'm happy to work with Linda and Artisan Missy to provide it. We'll just have to know exactly what it is.
I personally am okay with a start and an end date. You know, trusting that you know, that you're leaving weather. You know, there's weather buffers and all that kind of stuff in there. I'm confident with that. I do I do think that yeah,
I'm going to support you, Jerry, in the term used as nitpicking. Because these are fluid things. These are fluid situations that, you know, an artist, an installation of this nature cannot necessarily fulfill in detail because of all the influences that are present. And again, I don't think what we want to do is to create hurdles for murals. If we need a box check, then that's cool. That's fine. It shouldn't be some sort of demanding sort of issue. A completion date's fine. Materials used is fine. I'm having a hard time getting into the nature of the work and the detail we're requesting. When it's paint on a wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we've got community input. I'm not sure that I need necessarily some sort of detailed timeline on how it's going to be executed, because I don't think it ought to be an impediment to art going on blank walls when an artist and an owner is willing to do so.
I agree. Can we, sorry, Porter, I don't see the checklist. I think we have a couple more things to work through, if you wouldn't mind putting them up. I mean, just in my mind, we have approved these in our last few meetings, conditionally approved these on with a few follow-on actions, and I think that's what we're heading for this one, particularly with respect to the neighborhood one that we talked about. So the next one is budget plan. I think the amount is agreed upon between the artist and the business owner. I don't know if anyone has any problems with that. It seems that they have a contract, a notarized contract, and understanding of how all that's going to be executed. So I wouldn't want to get in the middle of that. That seems like those parties have that matter tied up in a bow. But any comments on that one? Did I see a hand, Christina?
Yeah, sorry, I just had a quick question, and this may have been addressed and I just missed it, but I just want to be clear, are the building owner and the business owners the same?
Well, that's a great question.
Sorry, can't find that mute button. Yes, Tom and I own the building, and we will continue to own the building for the foreseeable future, and we own the business. We will be here in Lawrence as long as we live, and we will make sure that the mural is maintained as we have with other mural on the other side of the wall.
Great, thank you, because I know in some murals that's been an issue.
Yeah, I can
years
see
ago.
that.
So, and maybe that's something that we as the commissioners should perhaps consider clarifying on the document. You know, is that when we say signed by both artists and owners, are we talking about the business owner and the building owner, or we might want to just consider clarifying that?
Christina, I really appreciate the question, and it was definitely, Dave will remember, it was definitely part of the point in time in history when we were going through that thing. There was a particular mural situation where we had that very thing, owner and the building, owner of the business, and there was actually a completely separate sponsor of the mural that didn't have anything to do with the business or the building. And so we really tried to get that stuff fleshed out. And I'm not sure that in this checklist part that comes out as obvious as it does in some of the other documentation. But I appreciate you bringing up that point. And Linda, thank you for sharing with us that the business and the building owner are the same, and that agreement is between you all and the artist. I think that checks that box for us, because you are correct, Christina, it was a big deal in some of our previous things. And the final box that I see is a notarized agreement, and I think we have that. I think we saw that attached to the documentation. So does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so what I have heard from this conversation, and you know, I really appreciate this group for their diligence in thinking through all of this stuff. I think the result is a better outcome for these works and everything, and that's our job, right? Is to try to make the best outcome we can for these things. So what I heard is we would like a description, a paragraph on the relationship of the proposed work of art to the site in terms of history and cultural and social dynamics to the neighborhood and local architectural character surrounding context of the site. And then the other thing that I heard was that any further details we could get on the schedule, the timeline, would be helpful. Dave did ask, you know, specifically what we might be looking for there, understanding that we have a start date and a completion date. Does anyone have any suggestions on what detail they could provide beyond that? Understanding that we're talking about weather, we're talking, you know. So Sarah, I see your hand raised.
Jerry, I have some questions for the board. So as we have also sort of discussed the word nitpicking, I guess we have spent a lot of time on the detailed description of how it will be, and it has only led to confusion for the artist as well as to some of the board members, which is, I guess, the real question for us is what more do we want from a mural proposal? We've already said that this mural proposal is leagues above the majority that we have received. This one has excelled in its community engagement and providing proof of community engagement to us, which we have repeatedly said in nearly all of our commission meetings is one of the most important parts of this board, is making sure that we have that community engagement. And we've also spent a lot of time discussing the cultural context. So I guess the question I have for the board is that when we have a proposal that is so incredibly solid, and is, if anything, simply just succinct in its solidness. It does not floofy, it does not have multiple paragraphs, it uses about a sentence, is clear and precise. But when we have a presentation that then elaborates on those points. So in Dave's presentation, he discussed exactly how this mural fit into the cultural relevance of the neighborhood and its cultural and historical importance and its consideration of the architecture through its literal design. So I guess the question I have for the board is that, are we preferencing these things to be in writing with less preference for the presentation itself? What more do we need, I guess? Because we as a board, we have already heard the cultural context. It's just not there in physical writing, but this is also a meeting that's available to the public and is being recorded for the public. So that is my question, is that do we still truly need the extra paragraphs?
I think it's a great question. So, we can entertain any motions that we want. We can entertain a motion to pass it as presented here this evening, and we can see how that that fares. And we can also, entertain a motion that says that we conditionally pass it based on, or conditionally recommend it to the City Commission based on further inputs on the two boxes that we have discussed in detail tonight.
Jerry,
it's up to the commission. Go ahead, Joshua.
I love Sarah's comment. Thank you so much. This is such an easy yes, and we're an hour into the meeting. I make a motion to approve as we have all the materials in writing that we need, and we have the recording of the cultural context and historical context freely available to the public. So I move that we approve the mural project.
This is Daniel B. Smith. I'll second that motion.
Okay, so let's vote. We'll do a raise of hand, and I suspect we should probably say aye or nay on this one. And I'll just call on people as I see you on my screen. So I'll start with Dina.
Aye.
Christina. Still on mute.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Jordan.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Joshua.
Aye.
Denise.
No.
Do I see any other commission members? I don't, and my vote is aye. So we are, Porter, help me with the count. 1, 2, 3.
7 to 1.
7 to 1. So the motion passes 7 to 1. Is that true?
Correct.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. For the second month in a row, I have skipped over, if I might, Porter, I've skipped over the approval of the minutes.
Should we say bye to Dave and Linda?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation and the hard work, and looking forward to seeing it.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you guys very much. We'll get that posted up in the store within a week as soon as we can get a print and start moving forward. Thank you. This is exciting.
Thank you. All right. Sorry, so I've done it again, Jordan. As impressed as I have become with your fantastic minutes, for some reason I just jump over them into the new business for the last 2 months in a row. So we do have to approve the minutes from July 14th. I personally had a chance to read them today and found them to be as engaging as they have been since Jordan took over that responsibility. It's literally, as I've said in the past, like being at the meeting yourself to read them. And I appreciate that effort because it's not a skill set that I have. So thank you. Does anyone have any comments on the additions or edits to the minutes before we vote on those? Hearing none.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Joshua.
Second.
Tina seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
I see hands except for Christina.
Yeah, I was not at last month's meeting, so I can't approve.
Abstaining, and I see Denise. So everyone except Christina will abstain. All right. So we jump to section E, I think. Old business update on the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Reimagined Spaces grant.
This will be a brief update. We had 2 interviews with candidates yesterday, and we have 3 more Friday. So that's proceeding along, and I think we have some really good candidates.
You want to say anything about the actual submission itself? The grant submission?
Other than we got it, I'm not sure what.
Yeah. So we have it, and we're putting it to use.
Right. We have a $10,000 grant from the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission, just to remind everybody. We will have to provide 75% of in-kind, and then Explore Lawrence has agreed to contribute the cash amount of 25%, which is $2,500. We are dovetailing it in some way, shape, or form that's not exactly clear yet, but with the outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition. And the first order of business in the grant is to hire a program coordinator, which we're in process to do. We actually had quite a response, and I appreciate the committee that we're working with for gathering while I was on vacation and doing the legwork of determining who would be interviewed for this opportunity. And we have these 5 very good candidates.
Thanks, Porter. It's exciting to, I will say, from my personal involvement with it, it's a pleasure to have, I mean, we really had a good group of qualified candidates. It's not like a stretch to find a person. Whoever we choose is really going to be well qualified. So it's nice to have we have a good deck of cards to play from, or a hand to play from. So that's nice. Outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition update.
We had the request for proposal, well, actually more of an RFQ, RFP out, and we only received 3 submissions. And I would share those with you, except I was bamboozled by the WordPress system. So I don't have them available right away. But honestly, because of the budget circumstances this year and the fact that we have this other grant, I think, one is my suggestion is to accept the 3 who have submitted. All are proposing good ideas and they're all competent. And so I'm hoping to work with the Public Art Committee on that just to get their vetting as needed. But because it isn't really even competitive at this point, I hope you can have faith in my expertise on that one. And then, we'll continue doing other things, and possibly we may have enough funding to possibly add to the other Art and Culture Crossings opportunity, which I think could be interesting as far as maybe doing a piece, because I think the focus may be downtown, but I'd like to see pieces go citywide at some level if possible. So I can't, there's nothing slated at this point. It's just those are my thoughts at this stage.
So thanks for that, Porter. I wonder. So we look forward to seeing what we got, albeit small. But I wonder. We. I mean, where are we with last year versus this year? I mean, are there any? I mean, so last year we did nothing, right?
Right. So it would have been the year before. I think typically we get anywhere between around 15 submissions for the outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition. My suspicion is that, we did this at a different time than we typically do. So I'm wondering, we did push it out in all the typical ways. So the word was out, but I do know people tend to take vacation during summer and that type of thing. But we could put the call back out. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with 3 is, anyway, I don't know. We should do some thinking around that, I think.
Well, Jerry, if it's agreeable, let me, once Marlo returns, we can regroup the Public Art Committee and devise a good plan and strategy on that. Again, I don't think we can do a full-blown ODSE program with the budget when the TGT situation, but certainly adding 2 or 3 more artists would be a good thing to do if we can figure out a good way to do that. The issue, of course, will be mostly timing.
I agree. Well, thank you. Thanks for offering to do that. And I look forward to hearing when Marlo gets back, what comes of that. We know our budget situation and all of that stuff, but in line with what we think that we haven't been able to fund folks for these past however many months and so forth, you would think we would have more applications of people seeking that, and so to get fewer makes me think that we did something wrong. We didn't connect or whatever, and it would be interesting to do a lessons learned or a little bit of forensics on that to find out what's going on. So I trust you guys will do that, and look forward to hearing back on what you guys come up with. So now we have the LCAC budget letter. I submitted a bunch of edits or my comments or whatever at the 11th hour, and understand that that this commission feels that there's a time urgency to submit this letter to the city commission. If I just want to say this, I'm happy.
And I believe I insisted on you having it by the close of business the next day.
Exactly, Joshua. And I failed. I failed in.
Oh, you're
no,
fine.
I didn't get it done, and the stuff that I got in there today, while they are my heartfelt opinion on those things, they're at the 11th hour and so forth. So if you all feel, I just want to say this, if you all feel, I'm happy to go through my comments if anyone is like interested in burrowing through those, but also if you all feel like you need to make a motion, I will abstain because, and I just want to say this, I have the utmost respect for every single person on this commission and your work and everything. And I agree with the sentiment of the letter. I believe that at least our grant programs should be funded out of the general fund. I also have some feelings about, I think we should be tied to the TGT in some respects because I think that's a growth opportunity for our budgeting and so forth. But anyway, I do not disagree with the sentiment of the letter and because in the beginning, when it was changed from the general fund to the TGT, I didn't agree with that. I thought we shouldn't do that. Unfortunately, I don't agree with a lot of the words that are in the letter itself. So because I agree with the sentiment, but I don't agree with the letter, if you all were to want to vote on the letter tonight, I will abstain. I'm also happy to go through and explain my comments.
I'll just state I want to thank explicitly Denise for providing her comments and recommendations. I incorporated all of them to the best of my ability, and I think she fine-tuned some phrasing and helped out with a lot of different areas, but it was still it maintained the strong wording that I think art needs to be an advocate for itself with. And so she did a great job. And so thank you very much, Denise, for that. I reviewed your comments as well. And a lot of them were questions. And I get those. I understand some of them. I relied on Marlowe's letter a great deal in some of those things, and Porter just articulated some of the areas in which the TGT is not the reliable source of funding that we have had in the past, and I think a more direct. This is my personal opinion. A more direct funding source that shows that investment despite a pandemic, and we can be quite confident that this is the last one. That I thought it was going away too, and then this Delta variant showed up, and it's very, very, very much concerning. And we can provide the data, and I know Margaret at the Lawrence Arts Center and others have provided a great deal of data on just the value of art, both for the well-being of the community as well as the economic sustainability of the community. It's a critical component, and they've heard it over and over and over again. But I honestly, genuinely think that being budgeted within the city's budget and not contingent upon visitors from outside is something that we do to sustain ourselves, that we do to enrich our own lives. And our city representation ought to reflect that. And I think that's critical. So this is the messiness of writing by committee. If I had my own hand in it, it would be, there might be some expletives in there or something. I don't know. And I know Mary Doveton might support me in that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for her, but there's a lot going on, and there's a lot, and I don't discount your concerns, Jerry, because they are legitimate, and they are. I understand where you're coming from with that, for sure, because there is some growth possibility with the TGT, assuming we can have that, assuming that doesn't go to somebody else who has greater outside draw. And if we have greater accountability on, this is something that I think Porter, I visited with, maybe with somebody remind me, who's our cyclist, welder? Her name's slipping me now.
Oh, Kate.
Kate, I expressed to Kate a long time ago.
Blacksmith. I think she'd be offended if you called her a welder. So we'll
my apologies. My apologies to everyone on the board and the general public. This Smith, I expressed to her some of those concerns, because I think it's very important that we have some sort of stable, reliable funding on which we can base some of these things, and we can and should throw a fit when that gets diminished. But in the TGT context, we can't. We have only travel to rely upon. But at the same time, there are a number of events that promise thousands of heads and beds, and we have no documentation follow-up that verifies that. There is no mechanism that we use to verify the validity of some of those things. And lacking that, we can't adequately justify any of those TGT funds going to where they do. There are mechanisms, there are ways of doing that, but the infrastructure is not built to justify in the long term, in the larger sense, what that is. And so I question the use of those funds in a number of ways. And so I apologize for going on too long, and I think Sarah has a comment.
Yes, I'm not trying to cut you short, Joshua, but I think we've been talking about this for over a year at this point. I mean, we're definitely all on board that we need to be in a different funding situation, but I really do want to get into Jerry's comments. And I know that it's 9 o'clock, and this commission, this board seems determined to break all of our commission meeting, longest meeting times. So I just want to be quick, but also precise, because I think Jerry brought up a lot of really incredible comments, because the letter, it's great. However, it could benefit through clarity, because it is also a persuasive letter and it does need to have that concreteness. So Jerry, when you brought up in your, so when we're talking, like, Jerry, in your comment for the paragraph 7, which is about the consultant that was hired, you bring up the question of who is the our in the sentence and what curation and sustenance do the city seek from the outside. And I agree with that, because it does bring up, it's a paragraph that brings up questions and does not answer them. And I think that we can either amend the paragraph to answer the questions of who is the our? And what exactly was the city looking for by hiring this consultant? If we can at least just emphasize the clarity, and not just this paragraph, but honestly most of them, I think that would be a great way to do so.
I think those are great comments, Sarah. And again, writing by committee, this letter reflects that pretty well. That's what happens. It becomes vague and impersuasive, and it becomes something that doesn't quite move the needle in the way that it should. So I'm content with, I'm not invested in this at all. So I'm content with what the commission decides.
So where does that leave us? Do we want to do we want to edit this document on, I'm going to say that I'm for
whatever it takes to get the letter on the desk of the city commission. I can't do it now. I don't. We're starting classes in a pandemic here pretty soon.
Sure.
I can't do that, and I foresee much like the like many other things. This editing can go on forever until everybody's satisfied, and I don't foresee the completion of the letter in a timely way to make those changes in this current budget process.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure we can do that either. Listen, I'm committed to this group, and I would take a stab at incorporating my comments. I cannot have them done by tomorrow, but I would take a stab at it. But one of the things that I wanted to throw out, and this is kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning of when we reached this agenda item, is that, you know, if consensus is important to this group with respect to that letter, then, you know, then I think we need to do a little bit more. And I know Mary brought up last month, you know, rightly so, about, you know, sort of group editing and all of that type of stuff, and where, you know, where that ends up and everything. So I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us time wise. My personal opinion is that our letter is not going to have much impact on the city commission with respect to this topic. They know our feelings on it. That's not to say that I don't think there's value in giving them a formal position. But I think the formal position has to be based 100% in facts. I think it should be short and to the point, and just say, hey, listen, we don't like this. We don't like what happened. We don't like the outcome, and we want to protect our funding, which you graciously have given us. We're one of the only advisory boards that actually has a budget. And yes, we're a little PO'd that it didn't get funded during this pandemic. And we know why it didn't. And we'd like to fix that and be done with it. As far as like the verbiage in the letter goes. So I don't know. I leave it to you.
Let's try to resolve the matter, because it is post 9 now, and I'll just say, you're either committed to the arts and you create a commission and you fund them and you listen to them, or it's all, I don't know, in our terms, tokenism. It's just creating a thing to make yourself feel good. And I don't know exactly where they stand or whatever, but I get that there's an enormous problem with how the letter goes, the timeline, what it is. I don't think we all agree on the substance of it before the wording. So I make a motion to table it and have it as a continued conversation for maybe the next budget cycle. So I motion we table it until we have what seems to be a further consensus. I feel bad that Marlo and Mary aren't here, because they would have, I think, very strong opinions about that. And, you know, maybe we could have some form of consensus, but I understand that there's still a lot of issues we have to work out within ourselves before communicating persuasively to the city commission. So I make a motion that we table the matter.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I have a question for you, Porter, which is, what is the deadline to give this? Is essentially, do we only have 24 hours before the budget resets? What is our deadline for this more specifically?
Basically the budget process started when the city manager presented his recommended budget. And so anybody can come to any city commission meeting. You can convey information to the city commissioners. The formal hearing is on August 31st. So August 31st is hold budget hearing. And so that's the time to really present something like this, I think, to the city commission.
So, I would like to, because as I said in the beginning, I agree with the sentiment of this. I believe that at least parts of our budget should be tied to the general fund, because they're grant type of things and so forth. So again, I think I agree with the intent of the letter. So maybe since I had the most
Mr. Chair, I'm going to interrupt you. I think you have a motion on the floor, so you need to take care of that first.
Do we need a motion to not do anything?
Not necessarily.
I mean, sorry, but
I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm the guy ready to just do a thing, and this seems dead in the water. So let's call it dead. And because I think, like Sarah said, every point that you make is valid and worthwhile and worth consideration and discussion. Maybe some portions of the budget comes from the city's fund, but then some of it from TGT. And we haven't had that conversation about what may or may not do that. And here we are at the beginning of August, actually approaching mid-August, and we got a timeline. So whatever moves this off the table so that I can go to bed and get up in the morning from our meetings.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to disagree. However, I don't feel like we should table anything because the end of the day is if we only have until August 31st to get this letter out, and if this is the only letter that any of us have the time to write, that's the letter that we need to put in. Like, that's just what it should be, because having a letter there at the meeting is way more important than not having a letter at all, because they need to at least have formal writing about that expresses our sentiments, even though they already probably know how we feel. I feel like it's just not worth waiting another year is kind of how I feel.
So Sarah, let me pull that thread, as they like to say, a little bit. Would you, so like I said, when I started the discussion on this, I'm happy for you all to make a motion to approve this letter for the commission. I would abstain in my vote. So
I will withdraw my motion.
We could do that, and then the letter would be in by the August 31st. I'm also willing to spend some additional time in the next few days to edit the letter to a point where I would be willing to vote in favor of it. But there's a risk, because it's 9 o'clock and we all have to get to bed and we all have jobs and so on and so forth. But there's a risk that won't get done before the 31st. Although I think I could get my things edited in there prior to that. So anyway, I just tossed that out to the group. Denise.
I move that we go ahead with Jerry's suggestion and trust him on it. I'm sure he'll do a great job.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so it's the 11th.
Mr. Chair, you need to call for a vote on the motion.
On the motion.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
Well, it's the moment for discussion, and my discussion is in this timeline I can't contribute in the ways I would have been able to previously because of the start of the school year and massive amounts of construction at the same time. So I just want that to be noted, but I certainly support and agree with Denise and Daniel's faith that something can, well, and Sarah's too, that something can and should and will be done well. So I just wanted to voice that.
Okay, so the motion that we have and the second is to amend the letter, incorporating my comments, and to do that in advance of the August 31st meeting of the Commission for the Budget. All in favor?
Hang on, you're gonna need to do a voice vote. Let's
Voice?
do this right. We need to do this right.
All right, let's do this right. Dina?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Daniel?
Aye.
Denise?
Aye.
Joshua?
Aye.
Gary? Aye.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Porter. So if I were to take the letter as it is in our agenda tonight, incorporate my comments, then I send those back to you, Porter, right?
I'm following you so far.
And only to you, and then you can distribute that. Do we need to hold a special meeting before the 31st? Because we're not going to be able to get that done before our next meeting.
That is correct. You would have to hold a special meeting to review and approve the letter.
Okay, so I think we should have that special meeting next week, which puts a deadline on me to get the edits in there, but I don't think that'll be a problem.
What are you doing?
So do we want, how do we normally do that for the scheduling of a special meeting? We do that now, we do a poll, or?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because Marlo and Mary are not here, I don't know how long they're gone.
So let's say at our earliest, I would love to have Marlo and Mary's. I've greatly valued their opinion because I know they have energy around this topic for sure.
Yeah, I think the probably the most efficient way to do this is if I send out a doodle poll tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shoot for Wednesday or Thursday next week, in light of my schedule as well. So if you guys, if you have Wednesday and Thursday open, go ahead and pencil those in. But I'll send out a doodle poll and see what we can come up with.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And also I with respect, I know that Jordan and I think others may not be able to meet at like 5 o'clock, but could I do it at 6? Is that, everybody give me a thumbs up if 6 would work, or a thumbs down if it won't work.
I'm going to be away next week, so I can't do any time.
Okay. All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put out a doodle poll for a variety of times and we'll figure out what works best.
Okay.
Thanks, Porter. All right, so next on our agenda is committee updates as needed. I'm not sure we have any committee updates unless anyone knows of any. not seeing any miscellaneous items for us to cover.
Jerry, I just realized, so at the last meeting, I believe there was some discussion about the National Endowment for the Arts ARPA fund grant.
Yes.
An update to all of you. Thanks to Jerry and Marlo for helping me craft the grant language. I was able to get in and actually submit that grant for $150,000. I think it's going to be fairly competitive. I believe they have $80 million for the entire country, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you spread that across the country, I'm sure it's going to be really competitive. But anyway, I'm pleased to say that we did get the grant application in. It was a bit of a added challenge because I had to do it before I went on vacation. But we got that done. So fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Porter. Yeah, so that would just be great, right? It would sort of backfill our lost funding from our COVID budget issues, and that would just be absolutely fantastic for our community. Also under miscellaneous, unless anyone has any further questions on the NEA thing. We dedicated our percent for art sculpture at the Fire Station Senior Center. And I will say this, it was a day fit for a sidewalk sale in Lawrence, Kansas. And though we didn't have a sidewalk sale that day, it was 178 degrees, 149% humidity.
Oh my God.
And our artist showed up and did a great job. He and his partner and the band was there, and it was just lovely. And people stopped in and had some lemonade and waters, and we presented the work, and people sat around and discussed what it meant to them or what they felt about it. And the senior center representatives were absolutely fantastic. The city representative was great. The band was great. The artist was great. And it was really a nice event. I really appreciate Daniel showing up from this group to support as well. And it was, I think it's what we mean to do by our percent for art. So I thought it was a big success. All right. Any other miscellaneous before I think we get to adjourn after that.
Quick question for Porter. When we do eventually get to meet in person, are you just going to like send an email out telling us, or will that be like on the table in future meetings or something? Or should we just expect the rest of the year to be virtual?
Yeah, I think, 3 weeks ago, if you'd asked me this question, I might have a very different answer. But given current circumstances, I would say it's pretty safe to plan on meeting virtually. We started moving into a hybrid format with the city commission. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of challenge with boards. Some boards have been meeting somewhat sporadically. I mean, with sporadic in-person and virtual attendance. But now with this, now City Hall actually has a formal mask requirement back again. And given circumstances, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to be meeting virtually or in hybrid format. Hybrid would be the next change if that occurs. So, and yes, I will certainly inform you of that. We were heading in that direction, but now I think we're heading backwards.
Yep.
Thank you.
I will say that part of the nice part of Daniel being able to be present at the dedication was that we actually stood like 6 feet apart from each other. It was really nice to not be, in two dimensions. So, yeah.
I'd just like to mention and put a plug in for a project that's been years in the works now. Which has been the joint KU and Haskell Common Book program, which has embraced Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass as the common book reading for for all of our students and all of our communities. And what it does is through amazing storytelling in traditional ways, combines indigenous understanding of plants and our environment with Western science and understanding, and in such a way that it's really brilliantly done, has received worlds of accolades, and it's going to be exciting for our university community, and I hope it spills out into the larger Lawrence community as well. So I just wanted to put a plug in for that, that our universities have come together, recognizing that we're kind of doing the same thing with the same ages and the same people, academics on both sides and students on both sides, and let's see what we can do better together. I think in a lot of ways, fulfilling that citywide cultural plan about how we share resources and bring folks together who have similar missions in both.
Thanks for reminding us of that. That's on my reading list. Your sales job from last time was got it right on my reading list.
I know I should be less an educator and more a salesman. If I could, I think there's more money in sales than education.
It's a compelling endorsement. I appreciate it.
Jerry, this is Christina. Can I just add to that for the record too, that the Spencer Museum of Art, we always do a pairing, a work of art to pair with the common book. And so our common work of art this year is Edgar Heap of Birds. And those are, you may have, if you've driven past the museum, you may have seen the signs in front. So that's our contribution to the common book. So check that out.
Great, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else before we say goodnight? I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye and goodbye.
Let the record show that everybody is affirmative in adjournment. Thanks, everybody.
Folks, thank you.